well-established rich coming right back at you. Sometimes a story is so heavy, you don't even want to touch it. Not because it's not important, but because you already know what you're going to see. And you know it's going to stay with you. This is one of those stories. This is about R.I.C.H, a 37-year-old intensive care nurse for the United States Federal Hospital. A man who spent his life helping people stay alive, who was shot and killed on camera by federal agents in broad daylight on a Minneapolis street. And if it wasn't for the people holding up their phones, we would be having a very different conversation because the video does not match the story that they told. And that's what makes this story so disturbing. This did not happen in a dark alley. This happened in front of dozens of people with multiple angles, multiple witnesses, multiple recordings. And that technology is the only reason the truth didn't get lost.
Tonight, tension soaring in Minneapolis after the second deadly shooting of an American citizen by federal agents this month. The move comes amid growing scrutiny and serious questions over what really happened in the fatal shooting of an ICU nurse who worked at the VA, 37-year-old R.I.C.H. Tonight, DHS says they're now reviewing body camera video which captured the shooting from multiple angles. So far, the public has not seen it.
Not a man!
They shot that guy!
Tonight, a frame-by-frame analysis of eyewitness video. At 8:58 a.m. Saturday, 37-year-old R.I.C.H. is seen holding his phone, apparently attempting to record federal agents as they make an arrest. At no point does he appear to be holding a gun. The situation escalates with officers approaching Preddy. An agent can then be seen shoving a woman into Preddy. You can see the two holding onto each other as agents move in. An agent then pushing another woman to the ground. It appears that nurse, R.I.C.H., tries to help the woman and is then pepper sprayed by agents as he moved in to shield her. Both of R.I.C.H.'s hands are visible, one holding onto his phone, the other hand held up, appearing to try to shield himself from the pepper spray. Several agents swarm in, tackling Preddy to the ground, and it escalates further. Another group of officers surround him, pinning him down, appearing to strike him multiple times.
They are hitting that observer! They are kicking them in the face!
At 9:01 a.m., you see a federal officer in a gray jacket appear to reach near Preddy's waistband, pulling out a gun that Preddy had a permit to carry. 1 second later, the first shot is fired.
What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you?
Oh my...
Soon after, an officer is heard saying, "I got the gun." R.I.C.H.'s body lying in the street. He died at the scene.
Now, let's walk through this calmly, carefully, because the power is in the details. R.I.C.H. was not running. He was not hiding, and he was not charging at anybody. He was directing traffic and filming with his phone. He was standing between an agent and a woman who had just been pushed to the ground. This is what the video shows. He put his arm around her to help her, and he was pepper sprayed. He was taken to the ground, pinned down by multiple agents, and while he's pinned down, you can see another agent remove his firearm from his hip. You can see it frame by frame. And then somebody yells, "Gun." And within seconds, he is shot multiple times while he's on the ground, while he's holding his cell phone in one hand and his glasses in the other. This is not interpretation. This is what major news organizations have confirmed after watching the video. Reuters, the BBC, the New York Times, the Associated Press, they all saw the same thing. He was holding a phone, not a gun. And that is the part that is hard to process because the official statement said something different. And without the video, that would have been the end of the story. This is why technology matters, why cameras matter. This is why regular people holding up phones matter. Now here's where this story gets even heavier. A physician who was present tried to help him, but was stopped because they didn't have their physician's license on them. They later testified that the agents were not providing CPR, but appeared to be counting bullet wounds. That is in a sworn affidavit. And when you hear that, you don't get angry, you get quiet. Because you realize this ain't about opinion. This is about what happened. Now, let's step back for a moment and talk about something most people missed. Uniformity. When you see police, you know they police. When you see the military, you know they the military. Same uniforms, same structure, same visual authority. But when you see ICE, you see people in jeans, different jackets, different colors, face covered. And from the outside, it don't look like organized law enforcement. It looks chaotic, and visuals matter. Because when people can't tell who is who, fear fills that gap, and fear makes everything worse. Now add this layer. Some witnesses say they were held for hours in the federal building. Not charged, just held. And then you start to see why this story has people shaking. This is not a political story. This is a human story about a man who in that moment was trying to help somebody and ended up dead on camera. And the big question everybody is asking is, how did this escalate so fast? How did a man on the ground pinned down by multiple agents, turned into a deadly threat in 5 seconds. And that's the question we have to sit with, because what makes it harder to watch is not just what happened, but how fast everything happened. From the moment someone yelled gun to the moment the shots were fired. That was only a few seconds. And those few seconds is where everything lives. Because in those seconds, you are watching training, instinct, fear, and decision-making all collide at once. And that is where we have to be honest. This is not about saying all agents are bad. This is about asking what kind of training leads to that kind of response. Because if a man is pinned down, arms restrained, gun already removed from his hip, and somebody yells gun, who is the first person to shoot instead of look? Why is there no pause, no check, no confirmation? This is where people start asking hard questions. Because many of us have served military, law enforcement, and we all know something important. When you first come out of training, you are filled with adrenaline. You are filled with authority, but you are not yet filled with experience. Experience is what teaches restraint. Experience is what teaches you how to slow a moment down instead of speeding it up. And what people are seeing here is a moment that got sped up to the point of no return. Now add this, the visual chaos. When you watch the video, it's hard to tell who is even leading, who's in charge, who's making a call, because everybody look different. No clear visual command structure, no clear uniformity. And when things get confusing, people react on instinct instead of order. And that matters because order saves lives, chaos costs lives. And that's why this moment hit people so hard. Not because they want to argue politics, but because they saw a moment where order was gone. Now let's talk about the response after, because this is where people started getting uncomfortable. Official statements did not match what we all saw.
An individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The officers attempted to disarm this individual, but the armed suspect reacted violently. Fearing for his life and for the lives of his fellow officers around him, an agent fired defensive shots.
And when that happens, the trust starts to break because people ain't stupid. They can rewind, they can pause, they can watch frame by frame. And when what they see don't match what they being told, it creates a gap. And that gap is where anger grows, confusion grows. Now add this, state investigators were denied access to the scene. Witnesses were held. People felt like they were being targeted as part of the problem simply by watching it. And that's when a single incident becomes something much bigger. This is no longer just about R.I.C.H. This is about what people think they're seeing. A system moving too fast to correct itself. And this is the most powerful part of all of this. None of this would matter if there was no cameras. That is what everybody feels. If there were no phones out, this story would be over. And that realization is what has people shaking. What happened to R.I.C.H. is not something people are going to forget. Not because of politics and not because of protests, but because they saw it with their own eyes. And when you see something with your own eyes, you don't unsee it. You don't argue about it. You don't debate it. You carry it. And that's what this moment has done to people. It made them feel like the line between civilian and threat has become too thin. It made them feel like a man can be helping somebody, filming with a phone, trying to keep traffic safe, and in a matter of seconds be misread. And that feeling is what has people unsettled because everybody can see themselves in that moment. Everybody. That's why this story hits. It wasn't a chase. It wasn't a raid. It wasn't a crime scene. It was a street corner, a donut shop, regular people, regular clothes, and a situation that spiraled out of control. Now here's the part that really matters. This ain't about tearing down law enforcement. This is about asking what needs to change so this doesn't happen again. Better training, clearer command structure, better communication, uniformity. Because if people can see this happen, they start wondering how many times it almost happened when no cameras were around. And that question is why this story would not go away. The technology saved the truth, but the truth created responsibility. A responsibility for leaders to be honest. A responsibility for agents to self-evaluate. A responsibility for all of us to pay attention. Because this was not a moment that required force. This was a moment that required control. And control was lost. And when control is lost by people who carry authority, trust gets lost too. That's the real damage here. Not just the life, but the trust. And trust is the hardest thing to rebuild. So when people say, why should I care? This is why. Because today it was him, and tomorrow it could be anyone who gets misread in the wrong second. And that's a moment that should make us all stop, think, and demand better. Not out of anger, but out of respect for human life. But hey, that's just my opinion. What's yours? Like, comment, subscribe. Establish Rich. I'll be back with another one. Peace.